Welcome to the Wooper Club League Season 16, Week 1 through 4 recap. Yeah, we're maybe a little bit behind on getting something out here, but Season 16 for the Wooper Club League is up and running. We are already halfway through. It's not the type of league that we can easily do a weekly segment for, so here we go to catch you up halfway through. I'm your host, IllLogic. I'm the coach of the Buffalo Bouffalant. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, SteveChuck, coach of the Waterdeep Wobbuffets.
Hey, everybody.
So in Season 16, we are reprising a little bit of an old favorite. We tried this out back in Season 7. It seemed to be a smashing success, and we brought it back here. It seems like everyone's having a lot of fun integration between the two leagues as well. Steve, we're doing the Gym Leader format once again. Tell us a little bit more detail about what we're doing here.
Yeah, so this format, we have the Gym Challenge Draft, and the general premises is instead of having challengers challenge each other, there will be kind of set gym leaders they challenge to earn badges with a then, competition at the end to determine the best challenger team. So every coach in the league will have two teams, a challenger team and a gym team. The challenger team is your pretty standard draft team. It's a little bit lower number than what we're typically used to with 8 Pokemon on a team, but there are many leagues that do have that anyway, so nothing new there. Pretty standard how those are chosen. There's a draft. There aren't any points for the draft. So it's open points, meaning it's a pretty high power level. But that's it there. Pretty easy, straightforward on the challenger team creation side. The gym leader teams are a little more thorough. Every gym leader or every coach drafted a type. There were two of each type available. We have 32 teams in the league this season, so lots of teams, lots of drafting going on. But every team, every coach drafted a type, and then they created a monotype team, specifically 11 sets to use for their gym. All of the mons, with the exception of one, which I'll talk about in a second, had to be of the chosen type. And then every team also got a off-type option that they are allowed to must Terra into their chosen Terra type. We allow that kind of to give a little bit of diversity, allow people to mix things up a bit, and to kind of differentiate a little bit from monotype. And it just seemed fun and matched the games. So that's what we went with there. The gym leader teams with these 11 sets are fixed throughout the season. So before everything started, the gym leaders, had a little bit of time to craft their 11 sets and submit them. And then the challengers get to, know what 11 sets they could go up against, minus the item. The items, of course, can be changed week to week, and are able to, build a counter team to that specifically. And, the ability of counter teaming is quite strong. You're going up against a monotype team, so there's a lot of benefit there. You have the option, to look through and pick what coverage moves you need. Anything that's going to be weak. It's really is meant to be lopsided to kind of get that asymmetrical battle and allow kind of emphasize the challenger teams to get the wins, while the gym leader teams are meant to more serve as a benchmark for the other teams to compete against. So yeah, that is the general format of the teams. We have our usual 8-week regular season. Every week you're paired up against another coach, and you will play your challenger team against their gym team, and they will play their challenger team against your gym team. So lots and lots of Pokemon battles.
Yeah, pretty much. Way too much to be able to go over kind of any weekly setting there for sure. A couple things I want to make sure are clarified here too. You mentioned the Terra rules for the gym team. For the challenger team, I really love the idea of how much we're kind of leaning into an in-game style almost, right? A lot of the gym challenges is supposed to reflect a lot of what we do in-game. So while the gym teams often have an out-of-type Pokemon that can Terra into their type, and that's the kind of the ace of their gym, or what that's supposed to be. In game, it's a little difficult to change the Terra type of your mon, so actually we're kind of limiting the challenger team a little bit there to only be able to Terra into one of your own types there as well, which is kind of neat too. It makes it so it's not quite as easy to just go for a Terra Blast option to cover whatever you need to from a mon as well, right? And I think the other thing that we may want to touch on a little bit here, and I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit more as we get into standings, is that the gym teams also got to choose something very interesting, and that was whether they wanted to be a singles gym or a doubles gym. Steve, this has been interesting to try and incorporate both singles and doubles into the same season. I think we're kind of succeeding at it. This has been a blast to see all these different styles come together here.
Yeah, it really was very interesting. It was a blind choice for each gym leader. They got to pick singles or doubles. People could talk about it, but we weren't trying to make it so that there was any sort of split between the two. And we ended up getting a 50-50 split between them, which was fantastic to see. So everyone, get a equal mix of singles and doubles, except they play their own gym 8 times. So they are emphasized to whatever they played. But everyone gets to play the format they want to, but also gets a little bit of the other format. And it really did make the challenger teams kind of difficult to draft because there are those mons that are staples and excellent mons in singles, but maybe they don't perform well in doubles. So in addition to trying to get your type diversity to cover whatever monotype matchups you're going to be paired up against, you are also looking to get mons for a good singles match, but also a doubles matchup. And the overlap between those isn't always, there are some mons that are going to be fantastic in both, but not every mon is the key there.
And also very interesting that as we start talking about the playoff situation here too, the top performing gym challenger teams will be going at it in singles, similar to something like you'd see in the Elite Four or even in the Pokemon Show, where those would always end up being singles here. So make your way through singles and doubles gyms, only to finish with singles at the end. So maybe you want to focus a little bit more on singles, but then you're going to have a tough time with some of those doubles gyms. And I think that really has come out so far in the season. Maybe a little bit of prepping too much for singles, maybe a little bit of unfamiliarity with doubles. The doubles format's really brought something interesting here. So before we go into the standings, Steve, talk to us a little bit about how everyone is split up and what we're about to look at here.
Yeah, so we broke the coaches up into two conferences. The drafts for the challenger teams were held within the conferences, and then after those drafts, each conference was broken up into two divisions, and then the divisions are playing a division from the opposite conference. So we have of course, the Johto and the Paldea conference, and then the one division of the Johto conference plays one division of the Paldea conference. Those 8 teams are going to play against each other throughout the whole season, and that is the schedule. The actual rankings then for how to get into the postseason is the top 3 teams from each division are going to qualify for the playoffs, as well as 4 additional wildcard teams with the best remaining record. So we are expanding, from our usual 8 with roughly double the size we went with to double the playoffs. 16 teams making it into the playoffs. 3 spots guaranteed per division, with additional spots going to that wild card teams to and allow in case one division ended up a little stronger than others, they can get some more representation in the end.
And of course, you get the fun little gym challenge at the end too, which we'll go over at the very end of the standings here. But first, let's get into what our divisions are looking like and what they are doing so far in the Gym Leader Challenge. So we get to start off with the Johto Division, Vital Spirit Division here, and we're looking at the Akron Agrons, Buffalo Bouffalant, Evergrande Empoleons, Route 1 Burbs, Music City Mudkips, Clefairies, Baltimore Orcreos, and Galapagos Evolutions. Steve, wow, this looks like a relatively top-heavy division here at first. What do you make of this?
Yeah. There we have some of the top teams in recent memory with the Agrons and Burbs and Bouffalant, of course. They all ended up together as the Burbs have kind of fallen in preseason power rankings, at least with a couple of bad seasons. But they're doing quite well here. Notably being the one 4-0 team that is not top 3 in their division. We'll see the other divisions momentarily, but they're doing fantastic there. Of course, getting the Empoleons coming up from the beginner league, holding their own here. Fantastic 4-0 start and holding in with those 3 powerhouse teams we just named.
I think that'll be a big story here, is seeing with the meshing together of main league and beginners league. There are a lot of beginners league teams that are doing quite well here and are proving their merit here overall. Also of note, the Agrons in the previous time that we did the Gym Leader Challenge absolutely dominated the offensive portion of the season, losing I think only 5 or 6 months the entire season through those 8 weeks. So that is a real powerhouse at the top of the Vital Spirit division. Moving on to the other division within the Johto Conference, got the IllLogic division, not featuring IllLogic, of course, but instead we've got Steve and your Waterdeep Wobbuffets at the top, while the Hungry Hypnos, Seattle Steamrollers, Cincinnati Incineroar, Rite of Egg, Kanto Kinglers, Nefarious Noibats, and Goldenrod Goldango. And as you said, Steve, the other conference had 4 4-0 teams, and this is the only one with only 2, and one of them is you.
Yep. The IllLogic division seems to be doing a little bit worse offensively. Overall, we have less 4-0 teams, but going all the way down to the 6th place team, the Kinglers, at 3-1, it really is a tight race. There is room to lose a game, but after that, the differential matters, and we can see that with the Steamrollers making it in right now at 3-0 plus 10. But then, right behind them, the Incineroar, who lost week one and have been on a hot streak since then, 3 and 1+9. And, even behind them, the Rite-of-Egg Kinglers right there. So it'll be very interesting to see how this division finishes. And of course, if myself and the Hypnos are able to stay ahead of the pack at undefeated, or if we'll fall into that X and 1 race as well.
Yeah, once again, Hypnos and Egg coming up from Beginners League doing awesome to start off, which we love to see. Good to move on to the Paldea Conference now, the red-blue portion here. It's going to be the Wooper Boopers plus 22, which is insane, followed by the Newport Noctowls, Hippo Hides, Grass Guzzlers, Rocky Mountain Cloisters, Adams Pidgey Emporium, Close Combat Club, and Garden State Gyarados rounding things out here. Nobody with a losing record so far in this one.
Yeah, the red-blue division of Paldea, which, Paldea, please name your divisions so we can actually reference them. But for now, we'll just have to call you red-blue. They're doing strong. You mentioned the Boopers up top, currently in the lead, 4-0 plus 22. Just the lead overall, highest differential of the undefeated teams. Some other highlights here, of course, the Hippo Hides coming in from the Beginners League, Grass Colors with their first season, just right outside right now. Also, shout out to the Rocky Mountain Cloisters, 2-1. They are one game behind currently, as they got married last week. So congrats, Donier, on that. And when you come back and you're able to play your makeup match and this week's match and next week's match all in 1 week, hope they go well for you.
Shout out to that. Wonder if we'll see any little shelters coming through in here. Yeah, Wooper Boopers only lost 2 Mons so far. Wonder what kind of stud would be the only one to take those 2 Mons away from the Boopers so far, and also got helped maybe by a double heat wave miss. Anyways, we can move on to the final division here. We're going to be Paldea Green Yellow. Corinth Phalanx at the very top of this one, followed by Calgary Corviknight, Kansas City Kangaskhan's, and the Boulder Boulders, Southern Blossom, Corviknight Clobbers, Pikeville Pups, and Anaheim Arcanines rounding things out there. Steve, this division has been a bit of a mystery to me, I think, so far, but it's been awesome to see the Phalanx and Kangaskhan's especially put together quite a good show so far.
Yeah, this division has had some nice performance from beginner leagues teams like other divisions, and then it's had some of the main league teams losing out. The Clobbers down at 2-2 was kind of a big shock. They lost, I believe, their first 2. They're on a little bit of a hot streak now, but with that, such a low start, it'll be difficult for them to claw their way back into the playoffs there. Of course, it could do it with some other teams losing. But yeah, this division, they might be playing it against the hardest gym leader division, which we'll cover, momentarily. So maybe that's part of the reason for it, but, struggling a little bit here.
Absolutely. Again, Corinth Phalanx, we'll talk about them in just a little bit. Keep an eye on that team. But we have to talk about rounding things out here. The wildcard standings, as Steve mentioned, we separated the top 3 in each division there because they are in right now. And here's what the wildcard standings would look like as of this moment to get our final 13 through 16 teams. Be the Burbs, Incineroar, Guzzlers, and Boulders. But, oh boy, the differential is very close here, and that could be a big deciding factor through the end. You got to win out as best as you can, but also differential, really big deciding factor on who's making playoffs here, Steve.
Yeah, especially for the X and 1 teams, differential is going to be huge. I capped the list here at the X and 1's teams. At the moment, it's looking like X and 1 will be what you need to get in. Of course, we still have half the season to go, so it's possible someone at X and 2 can get in. But if once you suffer a loss, especially for your chance to get in, you really need to emphasize that differential. For the undefeated teams, the 12 of us that are currently undefeated, as long as you maintain yourself as undefeated, you're guaranteed in at this point. So take the safe plays, even if it costs you a little bit of differential points. As long as you don't lose, you can't lose your spot in playoffs.
And of course, the playoffs, as we said, was a singles bracket all the way until we get the champion. But the champion gets something else very fun that they get to do. We're going to move on to the next slide here. And it's going to be the standings for the gym leader. And you see the title right there, Elite Four. Steve, this is a really cool idea that we have for the end of the season that we were able to do last time, and we're trying to implement here again with 4 divisions. This just makes sense. Tell us about the Elite Four challenge awaiting the champion at the end.
So yes, throughout the season, we're of course keeping records of how the gym leaders do as well. And then the top placing gym leader from each division will form the Elite Four. There is also going to be a 5th spot as a contingency spot for the next best team overall. And in case the overall champion ends up being a member of the Elite Four, they get kicked out because they're the champion. That's more important, and we'll plug someone else into the Elite Four. But once the champion is crowned, we'll have a challenge run through where the champion will create one team and try to do a run through of the whole Elite Four in series. It was a lot of fun the last time we did this. the Steamrollers won season 7, and they then had the 4 Elite Four to battle. And I recall a highlight moment of that where their Regieleki was going up against Scarf Speed Boost Blaziken, and of course they didn't realize it was Scarf until it was too late, and the Earthquake did them in. But really fun setup where you have to build one team to try and get through 4 different monotype teams. Of course, there is a little bit of an advantage given at this point, and that all the gym leaders will be doing singles at this point. They'll be able to use fresh sets and everything, so it'll be a fresh team there. But it'll be a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun last time, and I'm looking forward to it this season.
And with that in mind, we get to take a look at the gym leader defense standings here so far. And yeah, there's only one team undefeated so far. The Corinth Phalanx are 4-0 with their gym defense team at plus 15. Otherwise, we include the Hungry Hypnos at 3-1, leading their division. My Buffalo Bouffalant at 3-1, and the Wooper Boopers leading their division at 2-2, with several teams still in the hunt. Some very good teams for sure. Steve, there are two things I think that really stand out that I want you to touch on. One, I see a lot of purple in here. You already mentioned that there was one very difficult division here with 4 of you with at least a 500 record. It's not supposed to be that easy for the gym leader. The second thing that stands out is the incredible diversity of teams we have here, not just in terms of types, but also a pretty decent mix of singles and doubles, but I think it's leaning a little bit double, so I want to hear some numbers that you have on that as well, Steve.
Yeah. So real quickly regarding divisions, the Hungry Hypnos, Right of A, Kanto Kinglers, and Waterdeep Wobbuffets are all, of course, in the Johto Conference IllLogic division, and they are, our division has been doing fantastic in the gym's defense. Unfortunately, we took these after 4 weeks. If we took them after 3 weeks or 2 weeks, we'd have 2 or 3 undefeated teams at that point from our division. It really has been spectacular, and it is quite interesting to look at this and say, that the Hypnos, of course, are representing the division right now, but the Right of Egg and Kinglers at 3-1 are, outplacing the Wooper Boopers as the division leader if there wasn't the one per division. It's then as well as the Wobbuffets being on top of any other 2-2 team that wasn't already in. We're just placing so well, and unfortunately, at most, 2 of us are going to be able to get into it, regardless of how the deck falls in the end. So, a tight race there, and all of us are going to be trying our best to represent the proud IllLogic division. Some of the other divisions, are a little more one-sided at this point. The Phalanx doing fantastic. The Clobbers, close by at 2-2 plus 1, but not really. So the Phalanx have a pretty dominant lead at the moment. Bouffalant are, a game ahead of the Agrons. Interestingly enough, for the Red-Blue division, the Boopers and Noctowls both have the same record, just differential. So if that maintains, there might be a fun swap at the end as they kind of race in terms of differential, assuming one isn't able to pick up more wins than the other. Regarding the makeup of the teams, we do have a pretty decent mix of both types as well as singles and doubles. The Phalanx have a double Stark Gym, the Hypnos have a double Psychic Gym, Bouffalant with singles Rock, Boopers with double Fire, Right of Egg with doubles Normal, Kinglers with singles Bug, Wobbuffets with single Fighting, Agrons with doubles Electric. Shout out to the Boeing badge, big fan. Clobberers with singles Ice, and the Noctowls with singles Ghost. So we can kind of see, especially some of these teams towards the top, I've been emphasizing that a doubles format, which, as Nate mentioned, because the post game is in singles, a lot of drafters for their challenge team kind of emphasize that, which we can kind of see the cost here of their doubles matchups have been suffering, and those gyms tend to be doing better. It's, of course, not absolute. The Bouffalant, Boopers, Kinglers, Wobbuffets, Clobbers, and Noctowls, more of the teams seem to be doing it, but the teams that are doing especially well, and, maybe surprisingly well, Phalanx and Hypnos coming up from the Beginners League and dominating as the gym leader, it could be being helped by that doubles performance, giving them a slight boost.
These gyms have been so cool to see. As you point out, the Boeing badge, some of the branding has been so fun. Shout out to the Crocklor's Burger Barn from the Route 1 Burbs. It's been a blast. Fun to see a lot of these unusual mods putting in a lot of work, too. Shout out to the Hypno's use of Medijam. I think it's been really cool to see, for sure, too. Yeah, I think doubles, there's a lot of that is unfamiliarity as well. I think there are a lot of coaches that are relatively inexperienced with doubles. We've been trying to emphasize it a little bit more. That's kind of the roots of the league overall. Honestly, it's been monotype as well as doubles. A lot of folks in here are big time into both of those, so we're trying to get a nice mix of those, but a lot of folks just not quite as familiar, and I think that does hurt them and help out the doubles gyms significantly. So with this quick overview of the halfway point of the season, we do have half the season left to go. And here we go. It's the week 5 through 8 schedule. Our genius schedule maker, of course, has kind of split things up so that 1 through 4 and 5 through 8 are almost mirrored here. This may look a little complicated, but trust me, it's not so bad. Steve, tell us about the second half schedule.
Yeah. So right here, left to right, you can just see every matchup for this week specifically. So like Bouffalant are playing the Cloisters, the Empoleons are playing the Noctowls, Mudkip's Hides, so on and so forth. However, within each quadrant here, those teams are all going to be playing each other for the remainder of the season. So the Bouffalant, specifically in order, are playing the Cloisters, Noctowls, Hides, and Emporium. The Empoleon, not specifically in order, but they're playing all 4 of those teams, starting with the Noctowls, and then I don't remember exactly, but they're playing the Cloisters, Hides, and Emporium throughout the rest of the season. So, with one infographic here, we can kind of give you an idea of what every team has left. A lot of teams going up against quite a few. Specifically, I can look at over for the IllLogic division. The 4 gym teams we referenced, the Wobbuffets, Kinglers, Hypnos, and Rite of Egg, are all together. So we'll see how the second half of the green-yellow division of Paldea are able to pair against those 4 gym leaders that have all been playing the same teams.
Absolutely, and that's an excellent shout out too, because I do see the Kangaskhan's and Phalanx. They're both undefeated challengers. I believe the Corp Knight are as well, with the Phalanx being undefeated gym team. It looks like there's maybe some powerhouses going up against each other right there. A lot of fun matches still left to go. We still got half the season left, but we will check in again at the end of the regular season and see what we can do for a potential playoff overview, as well as Elite Four here, because this is a season unlike anything you've probably ever seen otherwise. Really proud of the guys, everyone here that came together to help make the rule set for this, update things from season 7, where it was just kind of an experiment that happened to work out pretty well. We're getting things nailed down a little better. So shout out to Steve Commissioner for organizing everything here too. Try to keep everybody straight with these terror rules, which are a little bit of a problem here, but otherwise, been outstanding season. So that's going to wrap it up for us. Again, that's our overview of the first half of the season 16 of the Wooper Club League. We'll check in again later at the end of the season, and we'll catch you next time.